Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session of Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And today, the verdict has been declared, and we see that Vybz Kartel, what is his verdict? And where does he stand in light of the law? Right? Because indeed, we can see that Jamaica is not a country of law and order, right? And we're just a chaotic country running as a country. Are we even a country? One could ask. But the Gleaner reported, or let's begin with the Observer, that Vybz Kartel co-accused remain behind bars, right? And I'm sure that most Jamaicans would have loved to see Vybz Kartel free and released from prison. Now, the question is, why is the populace so interested in Vybz Kartel? Is it because Vybz Kartel is the de facto God of Jamaica, right? And when I say God, I mean God in lowercase g, right? That he is idolized in Jamaica. And why, when we have more pertinent issues to talk about? Now, let me first declare here categorically that I am not anti-Vybz Kartel. I am not anti any human being. I believe that the rule of law should run its course, right? And that if at all Vybz Kartel is innocent of the charges, if he's not culpable of the charges that have been leveled against him, then he should be released, right? He should be released. However, I am very concerned when an entire society, or most people in Jamaica, the majority of people, particularly young people, are clamoring over Vybz Kartel, because Vybz Kartel has an aura that I don't know if we want our young people to be following, right? And to be using as an example. And as I have said in many cases, we have really nurtured a dancehall culture in Jamaica, which is essentially a decadent culture, right? Because the dancehall culture is a decadent culture, and it pervades all spheres of the Jamaican life. And I think that even the politicians have to adapt to that sort of cultural norms and mores and values. And when they're speaking to the people, if they don't dance and behave stupidly, it means therefore that they're not connecting with the people. Now, where are we going with that sort of culture? And what respect are we going to have on the world stage with that sort of culture? You know, and I think a lot of times Jamaicans believe that we are Dons, right? Donovan, right? Maladon. And we think that people ought to respect our culture, irrespective of the sort of impressions, the negative impressions that we often portray about our culture. And I'm sure that if anybody who is visiting Jamaica, if we have any visitors down there and they're watching what is unfolding right before their eyes in terms of Vybz Kartel, they must wonder what's going on. You know, Jeffrey Tavares, who normally does his show, he has a Make We Talk program. And just looking at YouTube, he just finished his podcast, right, on the Vybz Kartel verdict, right? And having published his video, he has over about, in 3 hours, 57K views, right? That I've never seen with any of his program. 57K views in 3 hours. Or was it? Let me see if I can check to see if I am reporting what is correct, because I just saw it. I'm not seeing it just now, but I looked at it and I saw that he had amassed so many views because so many people, yes, it was 53 minutes, right? 53 minutes ago, he published, not 3 hours, 53 minutes, right? Going to an hour, that he just uploaded his video. Let me show it to you, just if you think that I am speaking, I'm lying, all right? So let me share my screen with you and show you the Jeffrey Tavares Make We Talk program. And you will see that, yeah, this is it. This is it. Met We Talk, Supreme Court to deliver the verdict on Vybz Kartel's case. And his video, it was alive, and his video lasted for 3 hours and 2 minutes, right? And 53 minutes ago, that he actually uploaded his video, and it has amassed already 57K views, right? Because that is what Jamaicans focus on. Everything is entertainment and dancing and behaving like slaves, because we're living on a grand plantation. And I've been saying that, and I have no apologies to make, because I understand that that is what it is. It was made for that purpose, and Jamaicans have not decided to elevate themselves and to move away from the plantation, because we are no longer ambitious. It's all about busting a tune and being like the Vybz Kartels, right? That is what we're aiming for, right? We have a very degraded culture. We're not thinking about liberation. We are not thinking about liberation. Everything is this African, and we have this understanding of Africa that is erroneous, right? That is rooted in lies and indoctrination. And remember, I told you that Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who many of the Rastafarians sing about, and they know man remember Marcus Garvey, and they sing and they dance and all of that stuff, right? Remember that when Marcus Garvey was alive, he was not particularly impressed by the Rastafarian movement. And at one point, he had a Rastafarian in his meeting, and he asked him to go to the back. And I'm not sure that Marcus Garvey wanted to treat him unequally. What I am thinking that Marcus Garvey was doing at the time was not to bring to the forefront people who were not progressive, right? He wanted to portray Jamaica as an educated, civilized society. And the way in which we are behaving, and I'm not suggesting here that Rastafarians cannot be civilized, because you have a number of Rastafarians who are very educated, very sophisticated and stuff like that, who carry themselves with a high level of culture and civility. But you have some who prefer to think that they, are aligning themselves with African culture and roots mean that they need to behave in this unseemly manner, and they have to be like thugs. And many of you who think you want to go back to Africa, nobody wants you in Africa with this violent culture that Jamaica has nurtured for over the years. We have nurtured a violent culture. And every day you wake up, you hear of the butchering of many of our young people. And somebody on one of my videos commented that, oh, Andrew, you are, using hyperboles here by suggesting that the nation is butchering its children. I am not exaggerating, because that is what is happening, right? And some people are saying, oh, he's speaking conspiracy theories, right? Now, if that is lived experience, how can that be conspiracy theory when we're actually living in an evil and socially decadent society? And we have no shame about it. Once Jamaicans had shame about how we portrayed ourselves on the world stage, but right now we have no bones. We really are not embarrassed, right, at the level of, socially backward behavior that we exhibit on the world stage, because we love it. We think that people should also respect us for portraying that sort of inferior culture, because that culture is inferior. And if white people think that we're inferior, it's because we have portrayed ourselves, and we continue to portray ourselves as an inferior stock. Because what society, if we were serious about crime and violence, the way in which the music that Vybz Kartel has produced over the years, it are not songs. The songs that he has released are not songs that are helping to elevate the thinking and social awareness. It's all about violence and, and this backward way of expressing oneself. And you might think that he is brilliant in terms of his lyrics, but yes, you can also be brilliant and be backward, right? If you're not using your art, your skill, your talent in a productive way, you can regress. You can act in an uncivilized manner, right? And now everybody's eyes are on Vybz Kartel and what happens to him or what does not happen to him, but we don't care about what is happening to the Constitution and what they're putting into the clauses, the sections that are being put into our constitution that are actually that is actually being written at this moment. We don't care about such sections. We don't care about such clauses. We don't care about the constitution. All we care about is, oh, we are a republic and we want to be a republic because being a republic means that we are going to be free. Because there is something magical in the word republic that will make us supreme, and overnight we will be free. That is ridiculous. That is absurd. And even though some of us have been saying to you that Guyana has been a republic for many years, Dominica has been a republic for many years, the Dominican Republic has been a republic since 1844, right? Since they gained their independence from Haiti, they have been a republic. Haiti itself has been a republic since proclaiming its independence from slavery in 1804. And things have not gotten better. And we could see that, France knew that if Haiti had not been independent, then they would eventually lose their emancipation, their freedom, which they did eventually. Because that's why France decided that they would now load down the people with this high reparations that they had to pay to the former colonizers, right? To the former plantocracy. And after that, in 1825, when Haiti started paying those huge reparation costs, the country started to crumble. So I have been suggesting, and I'm correct, and I will not apologize to anyone, that it is economic independence that is going to lead us into Republican status, if we really want it. But we're lazy. We just want to be in culture, we want to party, and we're just party-centric, and party must be for 24 hours, and we are going to put all of our efforts in Vybz Kartel's case and see what they're doing to him or they're not doing to him. Now, as I've said to you before, if Vybz Kartel is innocent, let the law run its course. If he is culpable, he should be in prison. Because there's nothing special about Vybz Kartel. There's also nothing special about myself, right? If I commit a crime, so should I go to prison, right? Let the law run its course. And right now, what we're seeing in Jamaica is that criminality is reaching to this brazen level that people they're not even afraid of committing a crime. Look at what happened at Vera Technical, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, right? In which a parent went and assaulted a teacher along with her sons, her children, assaulted a teacher because the teacher refused to have given to her a bag that another teacher had confiscated, right? Is it the way how we nurture a civilized people? Yet we want to become a republic, right? And Jamaica has to be listed as one of the most uncivilized countries in the world. The way in which we behave. You just land there and you see the sort of chaos that reigns supreme on that country. Everything is chaka-chaka, nothing is in order, right? And we have not built on that, the sort of order that the British left us. And yes, the British were exploitive. Yeah, they were, and they were oppressive. But, as we have said here before, Barbados used the systems that worked for them, and they built on those strong, formidable foundations. Right? And we could have done the same. I'm not saying that we would have been where Barbados is, because we know that Barbados was a special island for the British elites. We have already acknowledged this on this channel. However, we can't always use that forever. We have to build somewhere. And what we have been doing, we have been rejecting strong cultural values that have been passed on to us. Not everything in life, even when you have an oppressor, not everything in life is all evil and bad. And there are good aspects. There were good aspects of the British culture. And we should seize on those good aspects and throw out the bad aspects. One of the good aspects is a language that was bequeathed to us that we could also have nurtured, developed, and refined. right? But we chose not to do that because right now we are promoting this sort of Creole because we're African, and even though the very Creole has a lot of English words and a lot of Spanish words, a lot of Portuguese language too, and African languages, of course. But we can't say that it is essentially African because it is a hybrid language, right? It's a hybrid language. And if we're saying that it is African, it's also European because a lot of our words are derived from those European languages because people are trying to communicate. And the purpose of a language is to communicate. And we want to communicate with the world, but we are trying to isolate our people from communicating with the world and from being competitive with the world, right? We should, at this point in our history, we should be talking about, yes, most of our people should have what? Mastered standard English, and we're moving on to learning other languages like French and, Spanish and Arabic, Chinese, whatever. No, we're still on the plantation wondering how are we going to have our people, just 2.6 or 7 million people, 2.8, 2.9 the max, speak English, right? What sort of country are we nurturing? Do we even have a country? Do we even have a nation? Have we forged a nation? I don't think we have, right? I think we're living on a tribalistic plantation. That is essentially what Jamaica is, a tribalistic plantation. When you have a huge swath of your population tuning into a verdict, right? A legal verdict of this guy Vybz Kartel, who would be running after Vybz Kartel. And, I wish Vybz Kartel all the best. And I hope that he has a fair trial and that a fair verdict will be dispensed, right? But if you look now on the different channels, the podcasts, everybody is so glued to what is happening to Vybz Kartel, and, and then we have a dysfunctional economy, right? Dysfunctional homes, right? An out of control homicide rate. But those things don't mean anything to Jamaicans anymore, right? Because that is how the system is set up. And you think that that is how it's designed, as so the system set up. And you don't care about it anymore. What you care about is having parties and promoting or dancehall artists. And they are essentially your gods. And people are telling me about, oh, you are trying to spread your dogmas, everything that we believe in our dogmas. Do you know that? By the way, you have your scientific dogmas, you have your religious dogmas, you have your whatever dogmas you have your philosophical dogmas, everything that we believe in, because that's what we think we believe, and that is what we try to live out in our lives. And you think that dancehall doesn't have or doesn't play a role in your life, just look at how you behave, and just look at the way you speak, look at the way how you dress. A lot of times, unconsciously, you do not even understand that the way in which Vybz Kartel and the sort of aura that he exhibits, that he evokes, you are also exhibiting the same attitude in your dress, in your speech, right? In your mannerisms, right? Because the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So music allows us to think. And a lot of times, music is so powerful, it's so potent, that a lot of the messages enter subconsciously through our brain, and it is registered there, whether you like it or not. Right? And, some of you are piercing your ears, you're doing your tattooing and all of that stuff that you're doing. You're just responding to stimuli. Right? No, I'm not following that person just because I like it. And if you should really observe yourself and do a proper introspective, honest look at yourself, you will see that you're doing it because you are influenced subconsciously by a lot of these musical artists, right? And they're going to influence your children also. And that is why we are in a society where violence is constantly being promoted. And we had people like the Damon Crawford, which some of you were actually defending. He didn't say that when I told you that he said what he said. He said that he does not have time for the God question at the moment. I did not say he said he was renouncing Christianity. I said that he says that he does not have any time for the God question at the moment until he fixes his house and he finds a cure for cancer. He can't contemplate, he does not desire to contemplate at this moment the God question. What is so hard to understand about that? Right? Damon Crawford is not using any complex language that I can't understand. You can't understand it because you're so blind to what Vybz Kartel has to say. Right? That is where are we going with our society? Right? Where are we going and what example are we setting for the younger generation? And we keep on saying, wow, they're violent and look at how they're behaving. They are just mimicking, they're just imitating the behaviors that they see in mainstream Jamaican culture. Right? They're just imitating that sort of behavior. And many of us, when we talk about Portia Simpson Miller, the former Prime Minister of Jamaica and the leader of the People's National Party, we used to say, oh, she's not educated and how she couldn't talk and she couldn't do this. She is talking much better, or she spoke much better than many of our people who are coming out of universities today. Many of the graduates coming out of the University of the West Indies, coming out of other universities in Jamaica, Portia Simpson Miller, the one who used to say she should not be prime minister because she's not educated enough and all of that, speaks much better and carries herself with much more grace and dignity than many of our young people coming out of universities today. Why have we decayed so much? What is the difference? What has happened to our people? Right? And I'm just here wondering, what is so special about Vybz Kartel? It should be just that if an intelligent society should read the newspaper and say, okay, well, that's what they have done. Let's see what, and if yes, we think that there is something unfair, then we should let our voices be heard. But when we are following this thing, it's almost like we are so much paranoid, right, about what happens to Vybz Kartel. And let me say something to you. Vybz Kartel does not care about you, right? Vybz Kartel does not care about the ordinary Jamaican citizen. And he's not going to let you know the flaws that we have in Jamaica. In fact, he's nurturing some of the flaws. It's the same flaws I'm telling you about, the violence and I should say the promotion of violence. Right? And you can't promote violence and then say that it's just an art. That is nonsense, right? And that sort of thinking is also coming out of our universities. That is just an art and they're just singing what they see, the things that they see being reflected in our society. That is nonsense. You don't go and sing that your mother, if you saw your mother being abused or you're living in abject poverty, you don't want to have the cameras on that and say that, look at my mother's husband or her boyfriend beating her, and you're showing that and say, yes, man, Philip, woman, and all of that. But you would not be doing that because that is not what you do. You try as much as possible to get your mother out of that situation, to get your sister out of that situation. You don't want to promote it, right? You don't want to promote it. You want to leave it alone and not even try. You want to suppress the thoughts. Some of us, we went through poverty in Jamaica, that you want to suppress some of those thoughts of poverty and exploitation, not to promote it. Yes, you can write books and you can say how you overcame these things, right? And music has done that. Look at slavery. Look at how the slaves, the emancipated slaves, they wrote some of the most beautiful, penned some of the most beautiful spirituals in which they told us about what they went through, but it was the glorification of slavery. It was actually telling us and that they overcame, which was inspirational. So when we actually sing those songs, when we sing those spirituals, we are encouraged that if we're going through very hard times, difficult times that we too can overcome. But what we're seeing in the dance hall, that is not what they're doing. It's not inspiration, right? It's promoting the vulgarity in dancehall music. And yet you have people like, Professor Donna Hope at the University of the West Indies, who thinks that this is an art and we should preserve it and we should showcase it to the world. And the world might be entertained, but they're not going to respect us for that, because people respect people who are intelligent, right? They might just like it because, people do anything. People, look at food we eat. We like food that are, that foods that are not good for our bodies, right? Because it might be delicious. The taste to our palates is good. It's excellent. But is it good for our bodies? No. Right? It's the same thing for our mental, I don't want to call it palate, but the fact of the matter is that we also have mental food. And we have to feed our minds on positive, elevating, healthy mental food. Right? We need to do that. And Vybz Kartel's music is not a healthy music. And not only Vybz Kartel's music, but a lot of the music coming out of the dancehall culture, coming out of Jamaica. And we know that we've had countries like Trinidad and some other countries in the Caribbean who have banned some of the dancehall lyrics coming into their country. And some of them are actually criticizing dancehall music for contributing to the levels of crime and violence that they are actually witnessing in their respective countries. Right? But we don't care. Right? It's all about showcasing our celebrities, and they are our gods. And yes, you're living in a theocracy, but it's not a theocracy that is God-centered, that is biblically based. You're living in a theocracy that worships and adores celebrities, dancehall queens and dancehall musicians and dancehall artists. Those are your gods, and you don't even see it. Right? You're telling me about my dogmas. You're following the dogmas of Vybz Kartel. You won't even listen to me, right? Only a few intelligent people will listen to me and heed my warnings. Most of you are going to be listening to the Vybz Kartel and the Bounty Killers and the Beanie Mans and all of that stuff. Those are your gods. And you respect the very ground that they walk on. You respect the very ground that they walk on. Right? Because they're living the life. Right? They're living the life. And even our politicians have to be mimicking, as I said before, imitating the sounds and the way of the manner of walk and Andrew Holness and his clerks and all of this nonsense, right? Just to pander to the base. Right? But this is the culture that we have nurtured. This is the culture that we have nurtured in Jamaica, a socially decadent culture. It's not even culture, it's culture, right? Because it's a plantation. We are living on a grand plantation. And I wonder, where are the Marcus Garveys, right? To take us out, to preach to the people. But I'm sure if Marcus Garvey were alive today, that you would not have listened to him, right? Because what is he saying? You'd say that he's a snob. Why is he trying to speak English? Why is he dressing the way how he dresses? You'd be wondering. That's not how the way Africans should dress. That's not the way Africans should speak, right? They should not want to emulate any positive European cultural values and norms and mores, right? Because if you think we can shed everything of our British colonial masters, it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. It's just like having a parent, and you might not like the parent, right? But it's your parent, and the parent might have some bad ways that you want to shed. But sometimes because you are sharing that DNA, some of these traits, pray God, you have to pray God that he sheds them, because you're gonna see manifestation of these things. But what we should hold on to are the proper and the wholesome values, right? And there are some wholesome values, right, of the British culture. And we are who we are. We're hybrid people, and there are some wholesome cultural norms from the African culture, right? And we should hold on to these two, those that make us smarter, wiser, more intelligent, more sophisticated, and more productive. And right now, the Jamaican culture is predominantly an ignorant, debased culture, right? How are we going to change that? How are we going to try to portray to the world that we too, and we can, because Jamaicans who have done well on the world have proven that we are some of the best in every sphere of life, right? We have portrayed ourselves, and Jamaicans have done well, but we are not looking at these people as our exemplars, right? We are looking at Vybz Kartel and the Beanie Mans and the Buju Banton, and they might have their places for entertainment, but they cannot captivate our entire attention. And that is what they're doing in Jamaica, right? You're worshiping these people, and they're just men, inferior creatures of the soil, right? Though you think they're so important, right? Why are you spending so much time on Vybz Kartel? It's time for you to get your act together. And, you know, I saw this in the Jamaican Gleaner before we finish. And it says here that supporters disappointed after court rules Kartel who accused should remain behind bars, right? So some supporters of jailed dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel were left disappointed this afternoon after court ruled that he and his co-accused should remain behind bars pending a decision in the Court of Appeal on whether they should be retried for murder. The court's decision today followed a habeas corpus application before Justice Andrew Thomas, seeking the release of Kartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, Sean Storm Campbell, and Andre St. John. The people are actually disappointed, right? They're disappointed. They're not disappointed in the performance of our economy. You're not disappointed in the performance of our decadent society, and the fact that we are so backward, and that we have one of the highest homicide rates in the world, not in the region, in the world. You're not disappointed about that. You're not disappointed about the fact that our constitution is being revised, but we don't see any real reforms, any real transformations being reflected in that so-called revised constitution. You're not disappointed. You're not disappointed in the way how we are dealing with the rule of law and our lack of respect for the rule of law. You're not disappointed with our educational system and the dismal performance of our students. You're not interested in that. And if there was a debate in Parliament today about the state of our education, the state of healthcare, it would not have attracted so many views as I'm seeing the whole Vybz Kartel case is attracting, right? Because as a society, we are not as intelligent as we should be. And it is palpable when you look at what is happening in Jamaica, right? We don't want to be an intelligent group of people. We like ignorance, and we like backward behavior. We like to behave as if we're uncultured people. And everybody down there is striving to be the most uncultured Jamaica. That's what we're seeing. That is what you're seeing. And that is an embarrassment to a lot of well-thinking Jamaicans who live there and who live abroad. Time for us to wake up. It's time for us now to reflect and look back at where we're coming from. And if we look back, we'll see that we have not really moved ahead as we should have. We're just barely crawling. We have not yet begun to walk as a nation. And that is a shame. When you think about a child who is 20 years old, or we're now 63, right? And we have not yet begun to walk. We're still creeping. Wake up. Thank you so much for joining. Hope that you will join me in another video the next time I upload another video. Please be sure to like, to share, and to subscribe. And please remember to share, put as many likes as you can so that the videos can be shared on a platform. All the best to you, Jam.